Talk about other warfare. Meghan and Harry, the year of hell.
Your warfare against Meghan and Harry.
There was a battle between Meghan and Harry and the press, the wider press,
subject.
for most of last year. You did the big documentary in which I was quite critical of it, to be honest, because I thought they turned a documentary about Africa into a...
Can I stop you there? This is a good chance for me to correct that. They didn't do that.
Do you know what? I absolutely, I know what you're going to say, and I said it at the time. It's not them who are in charge of the editorial direction of the programme. Well, they only answer the questions that you ask them.
But if you don't complain on camera, you're not going to have a complaining story, are you?
When the newspapers then run the massive headlines, it's the choice of those editors to make that
Susanna,
the
don't
story
be so naive.
as well.
If they didn't complain on camera, it wouldn't
Tom,
be a story.
You put their
there's maybe two things to say about that. One is that it is worth saying that the documentary was my idea. They were very consistent all the way through that they wanted it to be about their work in Africa. And I said repeatedly, look, I've made that documentary several times. I don't really want to come and make it again. I'm going to do it about your work in Africa, which is interesting, and all the rest of it. But I think, you've had an extraordinary year. I think it'll be weird if I come along and I don't ask you anything about how it's really going. And I push that and push that and push that consistently. And, and eventually, and I think even when I was there, I could sort of see going through their heads a sort of question about whether to answer honestly and how honestly. And I think they just, in the end, chose to allow a bit of qualified honesty. And I don't necessarily think we should be beating them up for that. I mean, do we want people to ask questions honestly or not?
Well, I think what I would say is that
I
think listen, you're brilliant at what you do, but I think that the problem I had with it was that they were able to moan away about, from their perspective, about how it all gone. I didn't think there was quite enough pushback about their behaviour through the year, which I think often was a big misstep. They did a lot of things which I felt...
The spending on Frogmore Cottage, they were criticised about the private
media
jets.
criticism. Now, you can argue it went too far. You can argue that some of it was abusive and that's unnecessary. I get that. But I do think they spent the year just making odd missteps, which brought a lot of this stuff on themselves. And we reached a point towards the end where everyone was glad. They were glad to get away for 6 weeks. I think everyone was glad that it all calmed down. What advice would you give them for this year? They've come back refreshed. They look a bit happier than they left. What advice would you... Maybe you've given this advice to them about how
you're good friends,
how to change the narrative and the mood about them with the media.
It's a good question, and it's a really big question in a way, because I think their relationship with the media had got so bad that it was almost impossible to have that conversation anymore. They have a particular view, and I'm not saying it's right or wrong. That's just their view, that they feel that the media is dishonest and all the other stuff and they kind of want to take a stand against it. And I don't know whether 6 weeks away has changed that in any way. I think the truth is there's a lot, going on. There's a lot going on within the royal family, and I don't know, and I'm not sure they know what their future is going to be and what their position is.
The Sun today front page says I think you're spending a lot more time in Canada, where they've just been, where, of course, Meghan spent 7 years of her life filming Suits, and that they are even contemplating potentially dropping the HRH title, perhaps recognising that with that comes the duty to do a lot of stuff that they really don't want to do.
I don't know the answer. I mean, it's no big secret in their friends that they've been considering their options in the future. But they're very, they keep exactly. I mean, I don't ask what their plans are, and they keep that pretty close to their chest, and understandably so. I don't think it's a done deal. That would be my impression. I think there's a lot of talking to be done about. There's a million possibilities. They could go to Canada and
the big tinderbox that you raised. I thought in that documentary, it's a brilliant documentary in terms of news stuff. But the main takeaway that the papers took was, of course, this rift with Prince William, which is clearly real and it's clearly ongoing. There's clearly a problem there. Where does that play out, do you think, in the next year?
Well, I hope that there are lots of people who would love there to be, including, I think, the brothers themselves, love them to be closer again. And, with any luck, that will happen. But, as families, we all know that stuff happens, things are said.
And having a family in public can't be easy.
Well, and also...
Hey, squad! Welcome back to Royal Sussex Squad, where we tell it like it is and set the record straight when it comes to our favourite royals, Prince Harry and Meghan, the Duke and Duchess of Sussex. If you're tired of the smear campaigns, the blatant hypocrisy, and the constant negativity from the British media, then you're in the right place. We're here to uplift, empower, and defend the Sussexes against the relentless attacks by the mainstream press and the so-called royal experts who seem to have nothing better to do than tear down a couple who are simply living their truth. This channel is all about bringing you the facts, exposing the lies, and ensuring that Harry and Meghan's legacy is defined by their hard work, kindness and resilience, not by the bitter narratives pushed by those who can't stand to see them win. Let's talk about the never-ending media warfare against Harry and Meghan. The British press has been relentless in their attacks, twisting every narrative to fit their anti-Sussex agenda. And now some so-called royal experts have the audacity to blame Harry and Meghan for daring to be honest in their own documentary. The same people who demand transparency from Harry and Meghan are the same ones who can't handle the truth when it's spoken. Let's not forget, it wasn't Harry and Meghan who controlled the editorial direction of that documentary. It was the media who decided what to highlight. But, of course, instead of focusing on their impactful work in Africa, they pushed a negative angle, making it about rifts, drama, and fabricated conflicts. And then these so-called experts sit there and act shocked when the Sussexes express their frustration with the media. Excuse me? You create a toxic environment, drag their names through the mud daily, and then act surprised when they say enough is enough? The hypocrisy is astounding. The real issue here is that the press never wanted an honest documentary. They wanted a hit piece. They wanted to trap Harry and Meghan into a narrative of victimhood while conveniently ignoring the real culprits, the ruthless tabloids and the outdated institution that enables them. Let's talk about the ridiculous claim that Harry and Meghan brought this on themselves by making supposed missteps. What missteps exactly? Standing up for themselves, calling out racism and double standards, refusing to be bullied into submission? What the media really means is that Harry and Meghan refuse to play the game. They refuse to let the tabloids dictate their narrative. They refuse to be the scapegoats for a corrupt and outdated institution that protects abusers while punishing truth-tellers. And for that, they must be punished. And now they're trying to push the idea that Harry and Meghan deserve the negativity, that they should just get on with it and fix their relationship with the media. How does one fix a relationship with an industry built on lies and exploitation? There is no fixing it because the media doesn't want peace. They thrive on the conflict they create, and they'll never let Harry and Meghan win unless they surrender completely. And we all know that's not happening. Harry and Meghan are stronger, wiser, and more successful than ever. And the British press? They're left whining on the sidelines, bitter and irrelevant. At the end of the day, Harry and Meghan have already won. They have their freedom, their love, and a future they control on their own terms. They are no longer shackled by an institution that prioritized appearances over well-being. They are raising their children with love, dignity, and the privacy they deserve. They are making impactful changes in the world, using their platform for good, and they are doing it all while living their best lives, away from the toxicity that tried to break them. The British media, on the other hand, they're stuck in an endless cycle of hate and desperation. Without Harry and Meghan, they have no real stories to tell. They keep rehashing the same tired narratives because they know that without the Sussexes, their headlines don't sell. They need Harry and Meghan far more than Harry and Meghan need them. And that, my friends, is the ultimate power move. So, squad, let's keep supporting Harry and Meghan. Let's keep calling out the hypocrisy. And let's keep standing for the truth. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And if you'd like to support this channel and help us keep shining a light on the truth, hit that super thanks button. We appreciate you more than you know. Until next time, stay strong, stay positive, and keep defending the Sussexes. See you in the next video.